Welcome, subscribers. We are continuing our talk with Kent, or Kentroversy, from, of course, the website controversypapers.net. And we'll spend about an hour talking about Hillary and a lot of surrounding topics to that. Very interesting stuff that you definitely should tune into before you listen to this program here. But because we are going to change topics somewhat and bring focus to another article that Kent recently put up, called Anatomy of a False Flag Terror Attack. I think that Kent really have kind of broken down this issue very nicely in his article, and I think it would be excellent to spend some time on this issue. And Kent, to kind of start things off kind of bluntly, I guess, for people who don't know, what the heck is a false flag operation?
A false flag attack, or false flag terrorism, is a terrorist act that appears to have been carried out by a certain named group or individual or a nation who are quickly named as the responsible party or parties almost immediately after the attack, when in fact the event was carried out by another group entirely. A perfect example of this is found within the 9/11 false flag event. This was blamed immediately upon Osama bin Laden and 19 Arab hijackers, when, in fact, there is plenty of evidence pointing to 9/11 as a complete inside job.
Indeed. You brought up in your article, kind of went through all of this, the different I guess approaches or tactics involved in a false flag terrorism attack. And I guess the first one that you really go into or mention, I guess, is briefly, and then you dive into it a bit further. That is the Hegelian dialectic that we talked briefly about in the first segment that we did, and this, I think, could be correlated to the problem-reaction-solution concept that was brought out by David Icke. Would you like to talk a little bit about that and how it works?
Sure. What happens with the Hegelian dialectic, which was originally expressed as thesis, antithesis, and finally synthesis, David Icke, as you had just mentioned, renamed it problem, reaction, solution. And so what happens is there's a very drastic, a very big problem, such as the Twin Towers and the Pentagon being attacked on 9/11, which is our most recent event in America here that's in the forefront of everyone's minds. And so that starts off as the problem. The reaction occurs when the news media shows the event taking place over and over and over again, day after day after day, to traumatize the people watching. And this elicits a reaction of something must be done here. And then, as I had mentioned in the first hour when we were talking about Hillary Clinton with the Delphi technique, they arrive at a predetermined solution, which through the manipulation of the public is what they want to happen, which in the case of 9/11 we saw within a month the USA Patriot Act as being rushed through Congress, which was allegedly passed for our own good and had nothing at all to do with patriotism or freedom or anything else that the name of the law alludes to.
You know, one thing also that you brought up is that suspects are named almost immediately after this event has taken place, but of course never enough in advance. That seems to be a very nice tactic that they chose to and this works very nicely because you know, you mentioned also a bit further down in the article that there is a connection with how the media reacts on the first few hours after the event, because well, I'm not gonna tell about. Tell us about that, because you wrote about it in the first 1 or 2 hours or so in the news media reporting. Some truth might actually slip through, I guess.
Yeah. I noticed this most prominently in a book called Oklahoma City, Day One, by a lady named Michelle Moore. She had published this book through Bill Cooper before he was assassinated by agents of the New World Order in November of 2001. And in this book, what she basically did on the day that the Oklahoma City bombing took place, she got a bunch of VCRs together and she started tape recording every news channel, like for 24 hours. Mm. And what was in this book were the transcripts of what took place and what was later found on those videotapes. And what happened is you would see, like immediately after the attacks, you would find, for instance, statements made by first responders or people who had survived the attack would talk about a certain aspect of what they had seen or take place, which varies greatly from what later becomes the official fiction or the official story of the event.
Yeah.
And so within the first day, certainly, the story begins to be sanitized so that all of these people who are saying, I heard bombs in the towers before they went down on 9/11,
yeah.
before those people are coming into America's consciousness too deeply, they just expunge their testimony from the news record.
Sure. You know, similarly on the London bombings of 7/7, with the testimony from one of the survivors stated that the explosion site had been taking place from under the train, because the metal itself actually had bent upwards, implying that a bomb was actually put under the train and not in the train itself. And again, I think that is kind of the same way how stuff works here, that this is the testimony that totally contradicts the official version of the story, but you never hear about that in the mainstream media.
Yeah, you might hear it mentioned once, and then it just disappears. So if you were not lucky enough to be sitting in front of that TV set at that minute, that one time they mentioned this took place, you would never know that it had ever been made as a statement.
Interesting. How about drills, simultaneously terror drills or public safety drills? This is something that also comes up a lot in relations to an actual attack, I guess.
Yeah, this is a way for them to do two different things at once. It's a way for them to practice what they are describing as a drill or a practice session or a public safety drill. And it also gives them the opportunity to have the drill go live, so to speak. And this is where it would go from drill to real live attack, as appeared to have been the case on 9/11.
Yeah.
I spoke with a gentleman who was an air traffic controller whose responsibility for most of the day on 9/11 was tracking Air Force One. And he had told me about all the different decoy airplanes that appeared had on his screen that were fake, and that the people who were sitting around him in this control room were just completely baffled, and they didn't know why this was the case. They didn't know what was live, what was fake, and it was done just to totally confuse these people and to further shroud in mystery the real perpetrators, because you could never tell if this radar blip was representing a real airplane or a simulation of a flight.
Sure. And there even is airline flight control, recording of one of these people actually asking if what is happening is a drill or if if it's the real life scenario, basically.
Yes, that's correct.
So I mean, there we go. And again, to tie this back to the London bombings, the same thing happened there. The same drills. They were running war games that morning, and I picked up an article here from prisonplanet.com with a guy called Peter Power, who is sitting in a being interviewed on TV in regards to this, and he said this in regards to when being asked about his involvement in all this. At 9:30 this morning, we were actually running an exercise for a company of over 1,000 people in London based on simultaneously bombs going off precisely at the railway stations where it happened this morning. So I still have the hairs of my back of my neck standing up right now. So again, I mean, that seems to be kind of the real red flag, so to speak. If there are drills running somewhere, terror drills specifically, then that might be a kind of hint that something potentially other real life scenario could be happening or playing out.
Yeah, and I wonder if a bull, for example, in a bullfight, can identify the red flag. Why can't these individuals see this, make this connection for themselves?
Exactly, yeah, that's a good...
Very baffling.
Indeed, yeah. So, I mean, and in regards to both the London bombings and 9/11, there is a possibility, I guess, that these people who were, who have been pointed out that as the perpetrators of these events actually are assets in regards to that they are actually participating in the terror drill, and consequently afterwards they are being actually pointed out as the real terrorists, so to speak. Is this something that you have come up against also?
Yes, exactly. And what a hell of a thing for somebody to have on their conscience. For example, you are a police officer or some sort of a member of investigating organization like the FBI, for instance, or MI5 or whatever in London. And, you find out later after the fact that you had participated in a real attack, what you thought originally was a drill, and you have to live with this in your conscience now. And you have to digest this and deal with this in terms of whether or not you're going to accept your role that you played as happenstance or coincidence or something more